Hi, what's up? This is Anxiety, Depression, and the Real Questions. We are going to talk about anxiety, depression, and we're going to ask some real questions. Some of them are going to be heavy, and some of them are going to just be like super light-hearted and fun.
Yes.
Um, we both have anxiety. We both have depression.
Perfect.
We both have very many questions. Your hair looks fabulous.
I know, right? This
I
is,
honestly really love it, honestly.
it's very poofy because I took a shower like an hour ago.
We are recording this so we can see each other because we're both very movie talkers. I don't know, like movement, like like expressive. We're very expressive. There we go. I can use
I was
words.
told that the other day because my friend and her boyfriend came into town, and the boyfriend doesn't know me very well, and he was like, "You have a lot of hand gestures." And I go,
Yeah, you move a lot while you
"You move
talk.
your hands a lot," because I would be like, and like just like waving my hands around mid
Yes.
expression,
As one
and
does.
and he was like, "Oh wow, that's a lot." And I was like, "Yes, I've tried to not talk with my hands, and
Don't.
it did not work. My
It's
brain
one of the
just
things I
stopped
love about
working."
you.
Thank you.
We've been talking about doing this podcast for a long time because we have such opinions and views and things we have to say, but in like a I don't know, like a more of a neutral type way. Like we're both very
We're so opinionated and neutral. Well,
you had a good explanation last time.
So what was it though?
All I can remember is the shape.
Okay. You're right.
So
Shape.
and then we can go into the shape. Explain, and then we can go into what the shape is.
Okay. So no, I lost it. No, okay. Like it was something about like we are starting like from the same kind of like foundation. Like we're actually quite similar in like one way. So we like meet up like core stuff we actually do care about the same things. And like coming from like a similar enough place like foundationally. Then how that's exactly expressed, or at least like kind of just like like we have different political leanings and that sort of thing, so it like goes out from that meeting point and like it splits to where we're different, and then but ultimately we end up kind of like agreeing or something. I don't remember this part, but like it kind of comes back together, like we in the end, like even with like small things and everything, like we end up being like
kind of in the
again
same
really
place.
similar.
Yeah.
And end up kind of in the same place, that like things are complicated basically. And so it goes like starts together, goes out, and then goes back in. And so we were like, is that a teardrop shape? Like what is that? And we looked it up to where it's like a, you know, like a stretched oval with 2 points.
And it is
And
called a
we
lune.
discovered that it is called a lune. And I have been laughing for a week.
Lune, in case anyone wants to look it up. But the best part was that you Googled long circle with points.
It did not work. My Google failed spectacularly because I don't know how.
But anyway, that happened. Claire is eating a snow cone. What flavor is that? What flavor is it?
It's pina colada, baby. And I want to die.
You should pour some rum in it.
Oh, I know, but I don't have any.
Oh, another thing I wanted to address. At least I'm trying like recently like to like cut back on my language. So like I wanted to put like a disclaimer, like we're gonna try, but like things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because we're we say words.
Sometimes, yes.
Yes.
Sometimes. I'm usually pretty good at it because my natural inclination is to replace everything with silly words.
Yes, my natural inclination is not to do that, but I have been trying more often to like use like the more like kid appropriate ones because I'm around children more often. And I think my brother would smack me in the face if I said a bad word in front of his children. Understandably so.
Yeah. Understandably. Little babies.
Yes, my sweet children. So the topics that we have that we are going to talk about at some point through all of this is the hush hush culture of churches, the because I said so culture with parents of like, do this because I said so or don't do this because I said so, and never like giving an actual explanation. Cat names slash pet names. Kid names. So like, why do parents name their kids something they know they'll get bullied for? And on top of that, why do parents spell their kids' names super differently, knowing that they will never be spelled correctly, possibly never pronounced correctly, possibly also bullied for that? Is the bottom of your water bottle just spit? And I can't,
that one so much.
Like, I can't get over it. And like, the more I think about it, the less I like that idea. Because it's probably like, oh,
that's all I think about. The constant question just going through my brain. And I was like when I sort of finish my water bottle, but it's like just that ending part, and I go to like refill it again, I'm like just mixing the spit. But I don't know that for sure, but it just feels that way. It feels like, I don't
like the sound you just made.
Oh, I know. What's the fact that I'm eating during all this?
Yeah, I'm tempted to eat because I'm kind of hungry, but like also that would require me to get up and go find food. There's pickles right here. Why is the joke whether or not you're smart enough and not whether or not it's what you truly want? Like, especially like when it comes to college majors. So like the joke a lot of times is like, oh, I wasn't smart enough for engineering, or I wasn't smart enough for biochemistry. And like, while that is the case with some people, like some people literally just don't have like that capability or intelligence or whatever. Like it is a thing. Most of the time, people who make those jokes, it's like, that's just not what they wanted to do.
Yeah. The relationship between desire and perceived intelligence is essentially what it ends up being.
Yeah. And it's
just a fascinating question.
It's dumb.
How much of it is motivation? How much of it is innate talent?
Because like, you were totally smart enough to be a lawyer, but you didn't want to. I was totally smart enough to be an engineer, but I didn't want to.
And math used to be my favorite subject until it wasn't. And you're like, is it that I'm like bad at math, or is it that like it was something else? You know what I mean?
See, and like, writing was always my favorite subject. And people always, make jokes about like Asians are good at math or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And like, you're not good at math. Or like, I used to make the jokes like I'm not good at math, but like, I'm good at math, but I don't like it. Like, you give me a book, I'll figure out the concepts, but that does not mean that I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now, some people just love doing math all day long. And I'm like, you are weird. Moving forward, like normalizing not going to college and like, why are so many people push like, well, why aren't you going to college? Like, are you going to go to college? Like normal, like we need to normalize like college is not for everyone. It is not everyone's, it's not like good for everyone to put themselves in crippling debt for a chance at society. And especially like right now, for a lot of people, college might not be a great option because like you gonna put yourself in debt, and then what you gonna do? What's the job market right now? Spoiler alert, the job market is not good. Personal experience right now. Hello. What media has influenced you the most? And that's like a good one because it made me think of our mediated values essay that our students used to have to do when we were teaching. Like, what has influenced you? And so there's like so many. There's like Avatar, there's Harry Potter, there's music, there's so many different kinds of music that have done so many different things. And so I think that'll be like a really fun one. We'll try to pick like top 3 for us, and we'll talk about them. And then another one, like, what is the meaning of 21 Pilots to you? Like, what does it mean to you? Because their music has been so like influential in both of our lives. This is just one I wrote down. The problem with the church is we don't talk about the problems. And I think that that's very big about churches. And I think it's very detrimental because it's like, we can't talk about these problems because they'll make the church look bad, but in reality, not talking about those problems and hiding them
is what makes
is what hurts. And it's not even just that it makes it look bad, it just hurts it, right? Because it's like,
for sure.
then it's like this, it's like based on this deception that is completely opposite of how a church is supposed to be. And like the whole point is like, we're all human, including people in church, which means we're all going to make mistakes and we're all going to have all those issues. And the right thing to do is like, let people understand and know, like, these are the mistakes that we've made, but we know they are mistakes and we are working to correct them. Why do people believe that anytime something bad happens to them, or just in general, that it's someone else's fault? So like, I thought of that after I saw a viral video of a girl who like lost her job because of a video she posted. And it's like, and then she blamed Trump supporters for losing her job. And it's like, sweetheart, you posted a video that threatened to kill people. That's like, there are consequences. And just like the idea, I think another thing I have a question about is like the idea of consequences, because people, the word consequences has such a negative connotation now, but consequence is literally just an outcome, good or bad. Like there are good consequences, there are bad consequences. People associate consequences with bad, but it's just what happens like when you do something. And actions so
have reactions.
Yeah. And so it's like
snow cone everywhere. Sorry. We're good.
Got to witness Claire getting her first brain freeze. But that's just something big for me, because it's like people don't understand what consequences are until they're in the middle of them, and then they think it's someone else's fault, and that's really interesting to me. What's it like being a Christian during COVID-19? I think that's a big one. Feminism, what's right, what's wrong? How can we like productively approach equality as Christians? Like how can we treat people as equals the way the Bible tells us to? Right? How has teaching changed our worldview? Because I feel like that has definitely affected us, and how we view people, how we view situations, even how we learn, I think was really affected by teaching. So I think that's big for us. Why is it so common in our culture to hide pain and anger? And like disappointments, and it's like, process your feelings in a healthy way, please. Because I think it's just way too common for people to be like, oh, I'm over it. And it's like, you're not over it. You're pushing it down into a deep crevice in your body, in the back of your mind, and it will come out in about 5 years somehow, and you'll be screaming. And then you're going to be like, I don't know where this came from. And it's like, I know exactly where it came from. It's from that one time that you pushed everything down.
Yes. And it won't be pleasant for anyone at that point.
And it's like, it's become this thing where it's like, oh, well, you know, pain, anger, like being upset. No, we can't show that. Like that's immature. But then also like when people do show that pain and anger, it's in the form of screaming and yelling and burning things and rioting. How do we do it
in a healthy way?
Yeah, how do we do it in a healthy way, like where we can actually process what made like us angry, so that we can actually move past it.
I'm not very good at that.
I'm not either. What is it really like being a Christian with depression? Which we kind of tried to do last week, and then, you know, it didn't record, so it's fine. Why do we so often forget the love your enemies part of Christianity? Social media culture, what does it do to our mental health? How can we use our parents' lessons and mistakes to shape what we want to do as like parents someday? Because, you know, most like the next 5 to 10 years, we'll most likely both be parents.
Yep.
I hope.
Oh, who knows?
It'll be the coolest thing your kids have ever seen. And you're going to be Aunt Dr. Claire. by the way, to my
Aunt
kids.
Dr. Claire, that's a good name. I like
Yes,
that.
I'm going to have them call you Aunt Dr. Claire. Therapy. Everyone needs it. Normalize it. We got to make it a thing. And not like a cool thing that's like, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna go to therapy because I'm cool. But it's like, okay, I have these real issues in my life and I need to learn how to process them. And a therapist would actually be really like helpful. And it's not like weird or whatever to go. What is the best pet? Now that will be a debate. Is the lesser of two evils really the better option?
That one's so
That one can be so hard. Like, because right now that one's so relevant. Like, because right now we're dealing with, like, it's the same thing as 2016, because 2016 the political climate was very similar.
Bad News Bears, yeah.
And literally all you heard was, well, I'm voting for Trump because it's not Hillary, and I'm voting for Hillary because it's not Trump. And like no one actually voted for someone because they wanted to vote for.
But like, is there another option?
But like, is there another option? Which people say like, oh, like a third party vote is a vote wasted. But it's like, but is it? And can it like be changed? And like, can the two part and like then like another topic could be like the two-party system and like what is the two-party system? Like what? What's happening here? States comparison. We will.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of want to make that into like a small like little series because we have so many friends in different states that we can't have them all on the same time. Different truths. Does like the difference between like living your truth and like the actual like this is truth, like no matter what direction, like no matter what angle you look at it from, and like the difference between like how people see a lot of times perspective as truth, because it's like their truth, that's what they see as how it happened, but it's like not necessarily like
the
actually
difference between perspective and truth, but also like the idea of like relative truth and the phrase live your truth, and then like truth with a capital T kind of vibes, like what, like how, all of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Going to church for the sake of appearances.
Mm-hmm.
Are you joking? Please don't die.
No joking. I just was reacting to that one because I hadn't heard that one yet. I didn't look at it. I like it.
Is medication right for everyone? And also like discussing like finding the right medication and like figuring out how to find the right medication. What does your Enneagram mean for your mental health? I thought about this one. I was like, what does like Enneagram, because I think that'd be fun.
Sorry, I really like that one.
How can Avatar teach us about ourselves? So like what kind of bender means what about you and your life, like stuff like that.
Air.
Why do we forget the do unto others stuff? So like a lot of times, so people always do like say like the do unto others as you want done to yourself, but it's like it so often just becomes like, well, do unto others how they treat you. And that's like not how it is. And it's so easy for us to like fall into that because it's like, oh, they treated me poorly, so I'm going to treat them poorly. That's like not how it's supposed to be.
Not even what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. The judgmental culture of churches. So it's like that's another easy one. I think it's easier. It's so easy for us to fall into because like I think as humans we are very judgy people. Like I think it's human nature to like look down on others.
Yes.
And so like we see someone doing something we like perceive as wrong and we get so judgy. And it's like that is not a healthy not a healthy outlook. And it's also like not what we're commanded to do as Christians either. We're commanded to hold each other accountable, but we're not commanded to sit there and be like, huh, well, they're doing something wrong. They're going to go to hell. So the last one that I added recently, and this has been on my mind, is like the double standards of abuse and like abusive relationships and allegations and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And the double standard I mean by that is like a lot of times it's getting a little bit better, but a lot of times if a man is accused of abuse, it's like kind of immediate like witch hunt, right? Like
Mhm.
do everything we can to like take him out, everything like that. But when a woman is accused of abuse, typically it's not that same kind of reaction, because a lot
Mhm.
of people, and I think it also has to do with kind of like the hiding pain and stuff. Like men aren't like told that it's okay for them to show that pain and to show that weakness, and so a lot of people don't perceive that men can be abused.
Well, yeah, but I think that's why like the most feminist option is the idea that like women can be abusers just
Hmm.
as much as men.
And I think
Uh,
that's something we can talk about like during the feminism.
mhm.
But that's made me think of that.
Also, I do understand why people are jumping on it because for a long time women weren't believed.
Yeah, and that's the problem though. It's like, but the problem that I'm having, and it's what leads into the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, because that's what I'm like, that's what got me on all of this. It's like when it comes out, when it's revealed finally, if they were false allegations, it like completely discredits real allegations. And it discourages women who were truly abused or people who were truly abused from coming forward because they're afraid that they'll be overly scrutinized and like won't, like their abuser won't come to justice. Because like, so just a
Mhm.
short like little summary on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. 2016 or 2017, Amber
Yeah.
Heard came out and they were married. She and Johnny Depp were married, and she came out and alleged that Johnny Depp had been beating her
Oh.
and abusing her, and she became like a big face of the Me Too movement. She became like, it like was really big for her promotion of Aquaman, because she was like the leading lady in Aquaman that came out with Jason Momoa. Johnny Depp lost his Pirates of the Caribbean contract. Everyone was calling him a wife beater. Like it was horrible. Like his
Mhm.
whole career basically went in the toilet in like a year.
Mhm.
Then it came out, I think last year, that Johnny Depp had literal like video, photographic, and eyewitness evidence that Heard had been the one abusing him.
Mhm.
And like a bunch of people had just like completely like tons of people had just been like, I don't want to ever associate with Johnny Depp again. I don't want to do any of this. And it's like he has proof that she was abusing him.
Mhm.
And he almost lost his Harry Potter contract because he was working on Fantastic Beasts. And he's actually right now in the middle of suing um, a London newspaper because they called him a wife beater in one of their articles.
Mhm.
It was like Fantastic Beasts refused to drop wife beater Johnny Depp from their cast or something like that. And he's like, you completely like, you know, smudged my name or whatever. And I
Mhm.
think it's super interesting because like a lot of people are jumping back behind Johnny Depp. And I was never really like super into it because I did find it hard to believe that Johnny Depp would do something like that. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know him as a dude. Like I don't know him as a person. But I know like he carries his Pirates of the Caribbean Jack Sparrow costume everywhere he goes.
Mhm.
Because he'll drop in and just make like surprise visits at hospitals and like talk to the kids and like talk to them as
Mhm.
Jack Sparrow. And like it's just a person that does those kinds of things isn't typically doesn't typically have that abuser mentality, right? That abuser
Right.
personality. And so then I
Right.
just
Well, you're
saw,
just saying, like, from your perspective, it didn't add
yeah,
up anyway, and then it
yeah.
was like, oh, it actually isn't. So we.
And like I've been reading more and more about it because it's just really interesting to me because his ex-girlfriends and ex-wives are kind of coming out of the woodwork and being like these abuse allegations make no sense out of like the person that I know, because they were
Mhm.
like, he's literally one of the most caring men I've ever met.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he was either engaged or married to Winona Ryder. And she was like, we are still really close friends. He is still close to my family. Like, even though we are not together anymore,
Mhm.
like, he is just a kind human. Like, people on sets with him, like, just gravitate towards him because he's nice and he, like,
Mhm.
looks out for them. But anyway, um, what I focus on with this one is like, Amber Heard has not had any repercussions.
Mhm.
Like, it's literally come out with evidence that she has abused him, she beat him, she threw stuff at him, she screamed at him, like manipulated him, also like basically almost cost him his entire career,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing has happened to her.
That's really interesting.
And it's, side note though, because we could talk about something related to like mask stuff as well,
Ooh,
because
yeah.
like the people like don't like masks and everything like that. Funny note, um there is a there are pictures of the two like showing up separately at the courthouse in London.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Depp is wearing a mask, a face covering in all of those
Mm-hmm.
pictures. Or like he'll like briefly pull it down to like smile and wave at people, and he'll like pull it back up. She doesn't wear a mask. She's just walking around all smiles, and she's like, oh, look at me, it's a great day. And I'm like, you literally just tried to ruin someone's life.
And you're like, this is all the evidence I
Give me
need.
justice. But
That's
I also
interesting.
just love Johnny Depp,
I know.
because like who doesn't? But like, and I don't know, it's just, anyway.
Yeah, the injustice of it is like, like bothering you. Like, and yeah, because
And I have a weird sense of justice anyway, so like,
yes. Well, and I don't know like what my thoughts are because yeah, like it feels it feels backwards to be like go hard on like, oh man, like Johnny Depp, like get him out of here. Like we hate him now. And then when it comes out, oh, we were wrong, to like be like step back into the woodwork and be like,
I don't want to get
I didn't
involved
say
in
anything.
this.
What are
Yeah.
you talking about? As opposed to like because everyone just sort of gets like protective of themselves at this point and be like, oh, we were wrong. And so
And it's
no
like
one's
really
saying
hard to
anything.
admit that they're wrong, but at the same time, like,
Yeah.
I think we need to normalize that, where it's like, you
And
don't,
being like, yeah, exactly, exactly. And I feel like that's what I think is that I feel as though the people that were wrong, like news or whatever, or jobs, like have the responsibility to come forward and be like, and like set it, like make it right.
you just be
Um,
like, look, we were wrong.
and
Let's figure this out together, or something like
in
that.
true like expression of equality, like make sure that the actual guilty party like receives the like the justice that's needed, you know, like that's like what would be right. And like you don't want to turn it into that every time an abuse allegation comes out that it's like, well, what if the woman is lying just like Amber Heard did or like whatever,
See,
right?
and that's like why it makes me so
You don't want
angry
that
with
to
the false
happen.
allegations.
Yes. And so but that's what I'm saying is that if we don't if we cover it up like the like covering it up and like not not getting the truth just ends up like I understand where they're coming from because they're like we don't want to like one be wrong and we don't want to like
Be publicly wrong.
set it up that like you know like that women are lying because we want to like you know protect women in that way, but I think that actually it ends up having the complete opposite effect, to where everyone is just like confused about what really happened and therefore is distrusting of everything that they hear, and so no one can move forward with like any type of justice or any type of this understanding that like if our argument is that men and women really are equal, then that means that that yeah like
They
there are
should
good
face like,
people and bad people
yeah,
no matter what gender you are in there.
exactly. Like it doesn't, I think the idea that like looking at gender first, and it's like such a weird thing for me to say, but it's like the idea of like, oh, well, that's a woman, so like they couldn't have done this. Like, no, like don't look at that. Look at them as a person, and look at, is this humanly possible? Yes. So it's
Yeah.
possible that they did it. Like, and I feel
Yeah.
like it's the same kind of thing that happens with a lot of equality issues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like, and it's like so big, but it's like, oh, well, like a white person can be racist. I know this is like super big, but like a white person
Okay.
can be racist, but like an Asian person can't be. Or
Oh.
like a white person can be racist towards an Asian, but an Asian can't be racist towards white. Like that's not possible, because like that's
Mhm.
what they say. And it's like racism
Mhm.
is not only discrimination against a specific race.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
discrimination against any race. And
That's
like,
true.
and I know that's like so, and that's something that's so dangerous now, because
It
it's
is.
like there
I
are
will say though
literally,
that like the aspect, so what is interesting then the factor here that's like going unspoken is the idea though that like um overall men are more privileged and overall white people are more privileged. So the
yeah.
idea of like the the way it normally goes, that people feel like they have to like react to a stronger degree in order to even the playing field,
Hmm.
right?
Well, but and it's
But
also
I
kind
think
of,
that yeah, like it could just it gets, if we end up still lying, if we end up still covering up things that are true, if we end because we're trying to promote this like a good idea, but like
hmm,
still like
but doing it like,
doing it through because we're like, ooh, we can't talk about that because yeah,
yeah,
like
because like, I
that
mean, it's,
ends up being uh like that's not a good foundation to stand on, and it ends up hurting people that are supposed to like that could do a lot of like good for that like movement, you know? So
and I think it's the same thing of like hush hush culture of churches, almost of like, not, let's not talk
mhm.
about the problem, because it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's also the same idea of like one man, like one person's suffering does not negate another's suffering, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Because
Yeah.
it's like, yes, people have, I would say especially people of color have
Mhm.
suffered so much. Like Japanese people were put in internment camps during World
Mhm.
War II. I mean, obviously, um, Irish, Japanese, and African Americans have been used as slaves in the United States, like in the beginning, like the child, the image. I don't. The beginning years of the country. I don't even know. There was a word for it, and it just left my brain. It literally was just like, "Peace out. I don't exist for you." Um, like people have been mistreated, but it's also suffering that does not, like, it does not make it okay to go out and like do unto others what was done to you, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I think it's like the same thing of like we were talking about with the mask thing of like you were like, "Oh, I don't like saying I'm uncomfortable in the mask," because like
Mhm.
people think that, but it's like, okay, you are allowed to say like the mask is not comfortable. I
It
don't
does not,
enjoy
it is
wearing
not
it,
fun for
but that
me
does
to
not mean
wear
that I
it, but
exactly.
I'm going to wear it. Yes, I
Yes.
am, and I will wear it like everywhere that I need to, but it is not fun for me to
Yeah.
wear it. But
It's
me
not fun
saying
for
like,
anybody.
God, I hate wearing a mask. Everyone's like, well, you know, and I'm like, no, I'm not saying that I'm not gonna wear it. I'm just saying that it's really hard for me to breathe. And they're like, that's not real, that's not true. Well, okay. I don't know
Okay,
what
but
more else to tell you.
realistically,
It
just
is though.
realistically, there's like a small compact space where that CO2 is just sitting in front of your face.
I
So
just
like
well,
whatever.
I and for me, I know it's probably is a mental thing. But yeah, like when I get really hot, I feel like I can't breathe.
Hmm.
It's not true. I'm probably getting the same amount of air, but that's how I feel. And that's the same thing way with the mask. It's like a mental thing where I feel like I can't breathe. But I'm gonna wear it anyway. I don't like
Yeah,
it though. So that means that my choice mainly is that I just end up not going anywhere
but it's
and
like,
just stay at home.
I mean, and that's okay.
Yeah, I found what works because I do um, believe that that's the right thing to do. The mask thing. So
Yes. Um. So another thing I just added, because I've been thinking very hard about it. And I know you're not like super knowledgeable about video games and stuff.
I am not, but that's okay.
One thing I think about is like not necessarily sexism in video game culture, but a little bit of sexism in video game
Yeah,
culture, and
yeah.
also the toxicity of video game culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because we haven't talked since then, but last Wednesday was my birthday. We tried to record the first podcast and it didn't work. But a couple of my friends and I, we have a girls' night every Wednesday night where it's just girls playing games, like just the four of us. And a couple, like one didn't feel good, and another, actually both of them weren't feeling good. So it ended up just being two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And the two main games we play are Overwatch and Valorant. And Overwatch, it's known for toxicity.
Yeah.
That was actually the least toxic night I've had in Overwatch in a very long time. One of the lobbies, it was funny because one of the usernames in our first game of the night, like one of the usernames was like tequila. And I was like, bruh, tequila.
I love tequila, which I do not understand at all.
And I was like, it's my birthday, so I'm taking a little celebratory drink. And they were like, and so then the whole lobby was like, happy birthday. Like, they were like, good luck, have fun, like, happy birthday. It was such a fun night in Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
So then we decided we were going to switch over to Valorant. And Valorant, it's similar to an older game that like had a lot of pros called Counter-Strike Global Offense.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, any video game where you can communicate with other players is going to have toxicity. And what ended up being our last game of the night was a game where we got in there and one of the members of the team was like, just off the bat, just like started killing his own team members just because he thought it was funny.
What?
Like, because some of the abilities, you can just do that. And so like the round would start and it'd be like 4 deaths pop up. And it's like, okay. And that happened for the first couple of rounds because it's the first to win 13 rounds. And then like one of the members on our team, like I have chat disabled because I'm tired. I've like just gotten tired of listening to people. My friend Mika does not. And she could hear him, and it literally, like, listening to her stream later, like I was listening to the recording of her stream, it literally sounded like he was like 9.
Oh no.
Which there is an age limit, but people can lie about those.
Yeah.
Because like you're supposed to be 13 or older, but people lie.
Oh dear.
It's not that hard to click the box, yes, I am 13 or older.
Oh yeah.
And then he was just saying a bunch of gross stuff and like just being inappropriate. So I have like the text chat enabled because you can't disable that. Or if you can, like, it's just not a good idea, just in case like someone says something actually useful. And so I was just like, please stop. Like, I was a little bit toxic. I was like, act your age, not your IQ. Because that's just something that's like a typical response that I have now when someone is like being really annoying.
Yeah.
And then they started being really disgusting. And at one point they were like, because my username is Anxious Panda, and they were like, I hope pandas go extinct. And a lot of times, like, it is very common in video games for people to tell each other to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It is incredibly common. Whether it's they will type KYS, or they will type it all the way out, or they will say it, like, they'll just say it in the voice chat. Like, they will say it. And they were like,
right.
They'll call each other names, like all kinds of names were thrown because they were like, why are you ruining our fun? Because then they just started trying to, like, then two of our team members were trying to kill me and Mika because we weren't we weren't buying into the whole like being toxic. And so Mika just alt F4'd her game. She shut it down and was done. And but with Valorant, you get a penalty if you leave a game in the middle, and you get like a time limit ban for however long. And I was like, I've gotten so many of those because my game like dies sometimes. I do not want to risk however long that will be. So I stayed till the end. And it was just overloaded toxicity and like telling people to kill themselves and just like all this, like, why are you so not fun? And like, why are you trying to ruin the game for other people? And like, just awful, like calling each other awful names. And then the game was over and Mika loaded back in, and she got an hour ban for leaving a game with a lot of toxicity. And it was just like, what?
Yeah.
And
Huh.
it's very common also in some games. I haven't run into it in a while, but simply because I don't get in the voice chat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, oh, you're a girl? Why aren't you in
Yeah.
the kitchen? Like, why aren't you
Yeah.
doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And it's like, we are in 2020
I
with
know.
such bigger problems than that.
Right.
Of course, you still think that it's like a cool insult,
I know. Yeah.
but it's
That's
like,
interesting. I'm not really familiar with that world, but I do know that it's like its own culture. And it is interesting that in a lot of settings it's developed into like toxicity and toxicity.
it's
I feel like I
just,
was right the first time.
yeah, I mean, it's
But
just like,
and then
it's,
specifically with sexism.
I think it also has, I mean, it's going into like psychology and stuff, like, it has a lot to do with like self worth and like self
Mhm.
esteem, and which are basically the same thing. What am I doing? But
Mhm.
also like maturity, I think is a big one.
Yeah.
Because then I was with Tyler this weekend, and he is like obsessed with Community right now,
Oh yeah.
which has Donald Glover in it.
Mm-hmm. I love
And
Donald.
there's an episode where like it's like, set in a community college. And there's an episode
Mhm.
where like these high school kids start making fun of everybody who like goes to community college. Like they're taking dual
Mhm.
credit classes or whatever, and they're like making fun of everybody. And like Tyler turned to me and he goes, kind of reminds me a lot of like what you describe in when you're playing video games. And I was like, yeah, because like that's literally the mindset of like they think
Yeah.
they're so cool and funny that they can like ruin other people's
Totally.
nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
I
like
know.
it's just like maturity and all that other stuff, and like um
But if you're behind a computer screen, it's just different. And
oh,
in like a
it's so
competitive environment, like there's like all these probable like reasons why like that whole world can get that way. Because I don't think everything is that way.
there are
Uh,
some gaming communities that are like super nice, everyone is respectful, like
yeah.
it works. But then there are some that's like you get these kids in there, like I know nothing about Fortnite other than the fact that 13-year-olds play it,
Hmm.
but I've heard that it is very toxic.
Yeah.
And I think it's typically like when you get people who like have low self-esteem, low maturity levels and things like that. So like it's common for like kids, right? Like
Yeah.
it's understandable. Like they literally don't, like some of them know better, but like they don't quite know how to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
Therapy. Um but like there are also like those kids grow up into adults who can't deal with it either.
Hmm.
And I think that's like the big problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Therapy.
I know.
Uh,
Well, like, yeah, and what to do about it? There really isn't much, but
it's just like,
yeah.
yeah, it's like
Wow. That doesn't sound, and that's probably one of the reasons why I never like
it's not appealing. It's
got
not.
into it is because that is not my vibe. Like I don't like I can't handle like random insults. Like I just don't like it's not my thing.
Well, like
And I'm
people
like,
being people being mean for like no reason just doesn't make sense. And it's not
oh
fun to
yeah,
subject yourself to.
it's not fun.
Like why would you,
And I'm not competitive.
it's like taking a picture of yourself and being like roast me on Reddit. Like no, I don't want to be
No, why do
roasted.
people do
I
that?
don't like myself enough already. That's why I'm in therapy.
And I'm just not competitive. I don't really care.
And I am competitive, and I think that's a problem because then it's like, oh, I
That's
want to
not a
show them.
problem.
Well, no,
I don't
with
think
this stuff, like it kind
competitiveness
of
is a
is.
problem. Oh,
in
yeah.
in this situation
It
it kind of
can
is,
be.
because then it's like, oh, I want to show them, but then I'm like so upset and mad already that like it affects how I like think and perceive things.
Hmm. And then you have to like come down from that and go about your day, and you're like,
It's like
how?
it's exhausting to be angry, let's be
It
real.
is. It is. I think
Like
that's why.
being angry, being
Yeah.
depressed, being anxious, being anything that is not being
So
anything is so exhausting.
being anything. To be is to be tired. I stand
But
by
for real
that.
though, because it's like, oh, I was happy all day, now I am exhausted and I will take a nap for
It
five
wore me
days
out for my like yeah
Like
happiness.
Friday, Tyler and I went to a shooting range because he just got a couple of guns from that were his grandpa's, and he
Mhm.
wanted to like shoot him for the first time. And so like we met at this really nice shooting range. Very
I
nice,
know
very
nothing
expensive.
about
Um,
guns.
I was like tired though, and like I was kind of like being quiet, and I had taken my coloring books because like I knew I wouldn't be shooting the whole time. So I had taken my coloring book and I was sitting there and we're sitting outside and like it was nice being outside. I grew up around guns, so it's like kind of comforting to me.
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
I'm weird and the smell of gunpowder is like something that's like nostalgic for me because I used to go
Funny.
out shooting with my brother a lot, and so like
Right.
I associate it
That
with like
makes sense.
spending time with my family and my
So
brothers.
funny because I've never like held a gun in my entire life or like even really seen one, honestly, except when I would
Um,
visit my uncle who was a cop. That's I like have no concept of it. Like my parents, like it's not like at all what I grew up with. But yes,
see,
you
we
did.
were
I
we were
know. It's so
country
interesting.
folk. Um,
Yep.
but I was like kind of just kind of meh all day, like kind of just like yeah,
Hmm.
like we can do whatever, like Tyler, because he just really wanted to go try those guns out,
Hmm.
and I was like yeah, let's go do it. Like, but I wasn't like he's kind of used to at least recently being like yeah, let's do this and let's do this and like being really excited, and I was like
Yeah.
I
Like,
need and like he like thought that I'd had a horrible time,
oh no, he was
and he
like,
was just
you're
like
sad.
and
I'm so
I was
sorry.
just
You're like,
irritable.
no, that's
And
not
in
what
all
it
honesty,
is.
I was just having a day where I was just irritable. Like I just
Oh
didn't
yeah.
want
Yeah.
like there were a couple small things that just kind of like ticked me off in like the smallest way, but I wasn't actually
Yeah.
mad. It was just like, oh, I'm
And
annoyed by that.
and and you're like aware enough to where you're like, oh, that's like
Like I know I'm being
not
unfair right
right.
now, but I don't care.
Yeah,
Um
like
and he like thought, and I was like, I just had to look at him and be like, look, I need a day or two where I can literally just be like smush on the ground where I'm
yeah,
just like
just a vegetable. Yeah.
literally doing nothing, thinking nothing. And like it helped. I got a little bit better once I ate more food
Yes.
because I like
Mm-hmm.
food. And we went to a really good burger place that I hadn't been to in a long time.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
so good.
girl.
Um, so there was that, but like it's just it, it's normalizing those like being a human and awake is exhausting. No matter what
Yes.
emotion you're feeling, personality you are, it is exhausting. Now there are those really weird people who can be like happy all the time, like never get tired and never do all that. And like those people are not human.
Mm-mm. They're
They're
not.
not
They're
human.
robots. We all know it. We all know they're robots, and that's fine. And also, like, it's. I've struggled with this during like like quarantining and stuff, because a part of me is like, when I'm super bored, that's not like great for me because
Mm-hmm,
my
mm-hmm.
brain just does whatever it wants. I'm like, well, maybe I should think of all these ways to be productive. Like, I should try and like be like busy, like keep myself busy, like have all this stuff because I
Does
don't have
that
a
make you
job right now.
anxious?
And it made me anxious which way?
Like it's like, oh, but here's all the things that I could be doing or should be doing, and like
Yes,
all this ain't
yes,
like, and then I'm sitting there going, I'm the worst person in the world
yes.
for
And
not
so I'll be
doing
like,
these
I'll come
things.
up with things to do, and then I'll realize that I don't want to do them, and then that makes me anxious, which makes me tired, which makes me blah blah blah, blah, and it's never ending circle. And also, like this like drive to be like, I know I like should be doing something. Like me just sitting here, that's not productive, therefore it's not like good, therefore I am wrong, like I'm behaving wrongly and I
Mm-hmm,
need to
mm-hmm,
fix it and all this
mm-hmm,
stuff.
mm-hmm.
And that like mindset, I've realized, is coming from a pretty anxious place. And so the idea that I can like give myself permission to just like take it day by day and like maybe and like be unproductive, like that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can be productive if I want to be, but like I don't have to. And just trying to figure out that balance of like that it's okay for me to just like take these couple of months where like when I'm between jobs to like rest, that's like totally an okay thing for
Yeah.
me to do. um and then if I get tired of that, I can do something. It's fine. It's like and that no one's judging me. Like I'm with my family and I do feel like they're looking at me being like, what do you do? And I go, I'm not doing anything. So I kind of like joke about it, but like I then I'll like actually say, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm like such like I'm so lazy. And my mom was like, no, like no one's judging you. Like
I love your family so much.
you spend like just spend your time like how you want to, because she like gets it that it's like what else
What else
would
is
I
there?
have
Like
done?
when it's like for me it's kind of similar, but at the same time like I'm sitting here applying for jobs and I have this like weird innate guilt like I haven't applied for enough jobs today. And it's like okay, I need to calm down because I have been applying for a lot of jobs. But like part of my
and
brain's like
actually if
I've
you're
only
just
applied for like
applying, like that's not
it's not healthy like to
that
just sit.
maybe, and that's not healthy, and that might not be the best use of your time at all.
Yeah.
So
Like I've had to like stop myself from just going like every day and applying for like 20 jobs because like it's not. I'm going to be honest, I've lost track of how many jobs I've applied for. I had a
yeah,
spreadsheet up until job like 150 that I applied
yeah.
for, and
See,
then I gave
mm-hmm,
up
mm-hmm.
keeping up with it.
Yeah.
So I have
And
no
see
idea
that
how many
that's a
jobs I
signal
applied
that's
for.
like, okay, maybe this isn't like good. Yeah, agreed.
But
And
it's just,
so
yeah,
how to like give yourself permission to like rest, um, to just like how much of like our motivation is about like what other people are thinking versus what our bodies are actually telling us that we need. And then sometimes our bodies are telling us like, dude, like please go outside and engage with a human. And you're like, okay, I will do that. You know, like I will,
or your
I
body's
can do
like,
it, you know?
or your body's like,
And so,
you haven't seen the sun in what day is it?
and so
You should
that's hard,
probably go
because
get some sunlight.
I do know that you can get into a rut, right? Where like you end up just being unhappy and like lethargic and like a bump on a log, and you can't seem to break out of that and you feel stuck. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like
Allowing yourself to like slow
allow,
down and
yep,
like
that
take.
there's no one that says like what all of this is supposed to look like,
And in
you know?
perfect honesty, like, yeah, being productive and all of that is great, but
Mhm.
if it's like you're sacrificing your mental well-being or physical well-being to do it,
Yep.
it's not worth it. Like literally
Because
nothing
so much of
is.
that is American culture.
It's so awful. Like I remember having to tell like my students that it's like because they would freak out about something or they would be like I don't want to miss because of this or I don't want to do this because of this like or my like a couple of them had sick parents but this was
Mhm.
before COVID, but they were like yeah my so and so is sick or my so and so has died or like I've been struggling really hard with like depression lately, and I remember having to like sit them down and being like it's okay to put
Your well-being
yourself
comes first.
first.
Yep.
Like,
It
and I
comes first.
remember telling one student, like, if any professor ever makes you feel like a bad person for putting your well being in front of your schoolwork, then you don't need to worry about anything that professor ever says again.
Yep.
Because it should always be like great, yeah, grades are important, whatever. Like you need to keep your grades up. And I'm not saying like just completely disregard like school, but
Yep.
it's like if it is a choice between having an anxiety attack and getting this paper done on time,
What's the, yeah,
like
there's no
there is
rules. Like,
you should not ever have to make that choice, and like that's so
mhm.
important because like
Yeah.
that's work culture too, like that's every culture. It's like oh well
Mhm.
like you are, it's like the like you are less important than the work you do, and it's like that shouldn't be how it is.
No, it's not. And like honestly, that is a cultural thing, like for America. Like honestly, like, and it's not like America's not the only culture that's like that. There
Like
are
it's
other
plenty of
cultures that are
cultures, but
like
there are
that.
also like cultures
But
that do it so well.
I did not know that that was weird until I lived in another country. And the country that I lived in, they like, I lived in Belize. It was as a like cultural whole, like did not have that same value in terms of like time is money, that type of thing. That was not at all the basis for like how the culture ran, as like as a thing. And so I was like shook because I was like, why is everyone always like late to everything? Like that's rude. Like why is every like I, you know, like because you start to just see the negatives. Or I was like, why like just all those different things, and then realizing like, oh, it's because if time isn't money, then, and if everyone is breathing and like going with the flow, then being late for something is not at all like a slight to the other person. It's not meant to be rude, because time doesn't mean that same thing. Like
Yeah,
no, no one's in a hurry.
it's not like as valuable to people. Like time
Yeah,
is like
it
time.
didn't have the same value. Therefore, they were not like, it wasn't a slight against me when someone came up late that like I wasn't valuable.
Mhm.
It's that like we have a completely different concept of like what late means and what time means and all of that stuff in relation to like social, because it's coming from a completely different cultural basis. And you're
Exactly.
like, oh, okay, so then that means that the way that I was raised isn't necessarily like the only way to live your life, and might not be best at all, because pretty much everyone in America has anxiety. And I never got sick when I lived in Belize. Like I used to be sick all the time when I like growing up. Like I was like my freshman year of high school. I was 14. I was in every extracurricular known to man, going from like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. like at like out and about, and then got home and had to do homework. You're like,
It's not like
this
it's not
doesn't seem,
healthy.
and I like just like my immune system just like died, right? Because it
Well,
was like, you can't handle this.
and it's the idea of like constantly being busy. I hate it because Tyler
That's
and I were
not
actually talking
real.
about
Like
this.
that's
Like,
not real.
like
So
it's so awful because like Tyler and I were talking about
it's
it,
a thing. Yeah.
and he discovered he had ADHD. He had discovered he had ADD when he was like in 5th grade, and he was in a school for gifted and talented on top of his normal school, and he
Mm-hmm.
was playing football and baseball. And how
Mm-hmm.
old are you in 5th grade? Like 11,
10, 11.
10, 11? That is too much for a 10 or 11-year-old. He had
You're
twice the
like,
homework. He had 2 different practices on top of like everything else. It's like, that's not healthy. Like, let a
mhm,
kid be a kid, man.
mhm.
Like, let the kid like sit and like let them sit on the floor and do absolutely nothing if they want to.
Yep.
Let them go outside and run around in circles for a couple of hours if that's what they need to do. Like,
Yes.
don't constantly put this stress, because then they will be raised to be this miserable,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety ridden, depressed human being, which is what our generation is.
Yes. And so like just now that like we're older and we're starting to make decisions for ourselves, like you can kind of unlearn some of those like things that you're realizing like actually don't really matter. And like I know that like some people like you have to work in order to like,
Survive.
yeah, like it's not like, oh yeah, just like don't do anything, you guys. Like that is not what I'm saying. But like the idea that like how much of like our lives are like perceptions of like what we should be doing are coming from a place that's like not actually like even like that's not like maybe that's not real. And so then you're like, oh, like what would it look like if I did this slightly differently, and like gave myself permission to like do this, that, or the other, and realizing you're like, oh, I freaking can, and I'm still okay, and actually it's better for me, you know, in the long run. Like you totally like can do that, and I didn't know that. And so that's kind of what I'm figuring out. And like COVID has not been great, but like it's sort of helped in this idea of like, oh, like everything that we knew switched, and like the
Mm-hmm.
way that like things moving forward are like changing, you're realizing how much of it like wasn't even like was such like a social construct from the beginning. Because like when I go, because I'm going to get my PhD, my first like the first year it's looking like everything's going to be online, and you're like, huh, like the day to day, like, oh, let's go to work and let's do these things and let's like interact with people and interact with like the concept of education and the concept of like a job being like changing. You realize how much of that wasn't even like how fragile all of that stuff was to begin with. And then COVID hit and you're like, oh, everything can just like completely like now everything's different.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Everything
And so then
can
you
be
adjust to it.
100% remote, even if it shouldn't be.
Okay, apparently that's a thing. And then we have to adjust to it, and we can.
Like,
It's
we
gonna
are
take a minute.
adaptable beings. Like,
We are.
we can take most things as long as like we have the structure that we need to like.
And I'm gonna be ending up to where I'm like working from home, taking classes from home. And that's gonna be kind of weird because I do need social interaction, but I'm still gonna get it. Being like, okay, so I'm gonna have like a lot of free time. So what do I wanna do? Like, what do I wanna do with my life? And I can answer that question.
What do you
I don't
want
know
to
yet.
be when you grow up?
What do I wanna be? I don't know.
You
But like,
want to be Aunt Dr. Claire.
I think I might like try cooking.
Baking. Baking is such a good stress reliever.
I think I might do that.
Like the very beginning of COVID, like I was baking like muffins and stuff like all the time.
Yeah.
And like,
I
you know,
think
the
I can
cinnamon
do
rolls
it.
that I made that Tyler is now addicted to, like,
And I am kind of learning how to sew. And because I love to go thrift shopping.
that's a
But I
great skill to
like
have
the
since you left it.
concept of being able to like go to a thrift store, buy something, and then like
Customize it.
adjust it. Because oh my gosh, I made these. I got this pair of jeans, and they were a 10, like size 10. I'm not a 10.
Claire is a 0 for anyone who's
No, I'm not a
curious.
0 anymore. I gained weight during quarantine.
Claire
But
is a 0.5 for anyone who's curious.
no. But they were supposed to be like baggy, like they were, but they wouldn't like it just they wouldn't stay up. And so I was like, okay. But I love them. They're so soft. And so I was like, I'm going to like basically like measure and like sew these like the sides up and then like they to see if they would fit better. And I was essentially able to tailor a pair of pants to my body very easily. They caught like the jeans maybe cost me, I think they cost me 50 cents because of the thrift store that I went to was like one of those like real sketchy ones. I was like, and with a Sharpie and a sewing machine, I was able to make them to where they fit freaking perfectly. And they're so cute. And I was like,
That's great, honestly.
am living. So sewing, all this stuff. I'm like,
have you seen this?
That's fun. And I can do that because I have time.
Have you seen those videos where people take like thrift store stuff and then like add like a lace like piece to it? Like that's the
yes, upcycling. That's like I love it. And so I'm like, I can lean into the hipster that I am, like the hippie that I am, like deep down inside. Like
you are
I
a
can
modern
bring
day
her
hippie
out.
if there ever was one. Like
yes,
like that is the perfect description of you.
This is who I was meant to be, and I can like let her free because I have time, and I like know that that's not everyone's situation, but it is my situation,
and that's how you're living your life.
This like is like we're in this weird in between right now because we just got our master's degrees, and we're both living at home. I'm about to not be, but like who you
don't get me started on you though. I'm gonna miss you so much.
I know, but like we're gonna keep doing this even when I'm in Michigan, and everything's gonna be okay. And we're just in this weird stage right now, and I feel like a lot of people are in a weird stage right now, and the fact that that's okay and we can adjust to letting go of like the way that things always were and start to like give ourselves permission to like do happy things
and to change, because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to grow and change over time, and so like
change is scary. Like don't get me wrong,
change is
all
terrifying.
This is very stressful, and it's taken me 4 months or whatever to like reach this conclusion. But still, whatever.
I still haven't reached it, but I'm getting there.
You're getting, no hurry.
But it's like it's just how life is though.
Yep.
Like,
so we have this podcast and we're going to talk about all the things, and it'll keep us up to date with the world
and each other.
and it'll keep us up to date with each other, and we can joke about things and be serious about things and talk about mental health and help each other out when we're stressed. And that's what it'll be, and it'll be good.
And I think another important thing, like, I know we mentioned this last time, but like we didn't today's, but I think it's like super important, is like we love and care about each other so much as like
Yeah.
friends
Yes.
that it enables us to, and we respect each other so much just as
Mhm.
people and as Christians and as individuals and as intellectuals and as like
Yeah.
everything, that even when we have like strong disagreements, we
Yeah.
can work through them.
Yep.
And like I think that's really important for us as well. And I think that's really
At the end of the
important for
day, we
this.
understand where each other comes from, and we know and love each other, like, no matter what. And but that's what makes like actually disagreeing like interesting. Because disagreeing has nothing to do with like how much you love someone. It's just like
Part of life.
and that it's fun to talk through that stuff when you have that foundation of like care for the other person.
Yeah. And
Yay.
and I've been waving around a Diva Mari this entire time, which people who listen to this will not be able to see. But it was a birthday present to myself because it's precious. And if you are curious what that is, you can Google it. Because it's really cute and I love it and it squeaks.
Little baby. Oh, my
Squeaks.
goodness.
Just assaulted whoever's listening to this, their ears, just assaulted them. I think this was a really good first episode because we didn't like exactly talk about anything specific, which I think is great. So like next time.
And like it's because it's just the first one, and like because last time I think it was honestly too long.
I think we went too heavy.
Too heavy. Yeah. And so I'm down with like heaviness, but I think we need to like
ease into
have better like parameters, because I did like after our like episode that wasn't to be, I was like, ooh, I'm like
exhausted.
Kind of got stuck a little bit in that mental space because we were talking about intense mental health things. I was like, it took me a minute to like recover, which is fine. But like, I just feel like having more balance in that sense, I think will be like overall better. And like, if we have more like intentionality with like the episodes and stuff like that.
And I think like in the episodes going forward, we'll try to stay like within an hour.
Perfect. All right. Well,
so thank you for listening. And anxiety, depression, and the real questions.
Yeah, this was a